we alive or are we live?
We're live.
Okay, everybody. So this is David Sereda from davidsereda.co. Today we're going to talk about the rainbow body light activation in the nervous system and how it actually works and how frequencies activate the light body. And it actually is a subject that's really interested me because in my 45 years of daily meditation practice, I'm having this phenomenon of a full psychedelic experience happening about 5 times a month with really beautiful sacred geometries appearing flying above the earth and seeing all these incredible geometric colors that are very, very vivid. And it just happens spontaneously from working with frequencies for so many years and mainly working with, religious, spiritual frequencies. Yeah, there's an echo. Shiroz, people are hearing an echo.
I'm trying to figure. I don't know why there's an
Try
echo.
here. There we go. I just muted your Shiroz's mic, so I think it's coming from there. So I'm going to show you something that is pretty incredible. See that where our psychedelic inner vision biological light actually comes from. In fact, there's a German physicist named Fritz Albert Popp who proved that our biophotons, which means the light coming off of our body, has faster than light, instantaneous over any distance signaling abilities. But also he found in his studies that we don't just emit infrared light. So if I put on night vision goggles, and I've done this, and stand really close to another person's chest, which is where all the heat is coming from, it actually blinded me and I had to rip the goggles off of me. So the infrared light that radiates off of your body travels at the speed of light, which means your light will reach the sun in 8 minutes and 21 seconds. And it will continue out and reach the star Vega in about 25 years. And Vega these days at 8 o'clock is straight above the house right now, straight up above your house, probably too. So what is actually happening is in our diet, and if we're eating from all the different food groups, and I'll show you this, we get 6 major electrolytes. And electrolytes are not minerals. They're necessary for human physiological functioning, and your brain will actually die if you don't get them. But each one of these electrolytes will emit actual light into your nervous system. And I'm going to start with sodium. So we're going to start with salt. Can you see this screen here is sodium, salt?
Yeah, we can see it.
So when I come here, the first thing to understand is that every single element on the periodic table under the microscope at the crystal lattice scale forms the geometry. And salt forms a cube with 6 pyramids built into the cube. And of course, a cube is a 6-sided geometry, which is the number 6, which you're going to see very, very profound things about the number 6. So this is what's interesting about your blood is saline, which means it's salt water. And salt delivers electricity to the human nervous system. It's one of 6 major electrolytes that deliver actual electricity. So the Holy of Holies temple in Solomon's temple at the time of the Tabernacle of Moses was a cube. And of course, the Great Pyramid of Egypt is a pyramid that actually has a Holy of Holies Queen's Chamber and what's called the Holy Place in Solomon's temple, and also the tabernacle is the same actual measurement as the original tabernacle and Holy of Holies of Moses. And there it is right inside of you, is what I'm saying, on a miniature scale. But what is also interesting is I'm going to click on this, and these are the lines, the spectral lines of color light that come off of salt. So if we look at the full graphic, it represents the full electromagnetic visible light spectrum, we can go to indigo on the far left and blue, and then you go to turquoise and green and yellow and lemon and orange and red. And you'll see each one of these lines from the salt actually emits this light, this biophotonic light, into your nervous system and is actually activating you. But what is amazing that you probably don't realize is that the salt gets activated by frequencies. So frequency, which causes pulsing, which is a very physical pulsing, even when you're speaking, this is happening. Frequencies through what's called piezoelectricity, and piezo means pressure, as in frequency producing pressure, causes the salt to emit these light lines into your nervous system. And if you, again, look at sodium and look at where the green is, the turquoise, the blue. Now, when we go to our other 5 electrolytes, so I'm going to go to potassium. Of course, we all know where to get salt from in our diet. If you don't get enough salt, you will actually die. Now, again, when I go to my geometry, it's actually the same as sodium, salt, potassium is. Your brain cannot live without potassium. It's in a lot of fruit, and it's in potatoes and bananas. Of course, our fruit is a good source of potassium. Now, when I click on my spectral lines, they're all in different places than my sodium. In fact, the potassium doesn't have a lot of red, but it's still got a good full spectrum of color. So each one of our electrolytes, when we pulse it with frequencies, is emitting these light lines into our nervous system, and that's what gives us our biophotonic energy. This is what's causing the activation of our actual light body physically, and also you could say spiritually, because light is something spiritual. It's a non-physical. In fact, light doesn't have any mass, so you could say it's actually spiritual. So this is what's actually happening. So it's very important to get your potassium. You got to eat you got to eat your fruit, and you're going to see in this presentation that eating from all your 5 food groups is absolutely critical to getting all your electrolytes. So from potassium, I'm going to go, I did sodium, potassium. Let's go to magnesium, which is in grains and rice. And I'm going to click on my spectral lines. And notice in the magnesium, we've really got the greatest bands in the color turquoise. And anybody who saw some of my recent presentations, the Holy of Holies temple is an octave musically of turquoise. So we can see our magnesium has a few lines in the green, but I would say the deepest lines are definitely turquoise and magnesium. Again, you cannot live without your electrolytes. What happens, and I had to learn this the hard way. I'm not going to tell you what the hard way was, but the importance of cross eating in all of the major food groups is such that if you don't do it, you're going to miss a major electrolyte, and you're really going to suffer. So a lot of these diets that say to stay away from carbohydrates are going to actually kill you. You need a little bit of everything. Don't do anything extreme when it comes to diet. Don't cut out a major food group, because you're going to starve the nervous system and the brain. But what is amazing to understand here is that you're going to see each electrolyte feeds different color bands of light into your body and mind. And if we look at our geometry, in this case, we are close packed hexagonal. Now the hexagon is the 6-sided geometry, and this is what magnesium crystals will look like under the microscope. And again, when people who use my systems, my beds, my wands, and my coils, what's actually happening is, and I tell everybody this, to make sure you take your electrolytes before you do a treatment. And you can actually make your own electrolyte drink, which I'll tell you how to do, because most companies out there with electrolyte drinks don't have all the electrolytes in them, right? They might have some sodium and potassium, which is all your doctor checks at the hospital. But that's, so now we've got sodium, potassium, magnesium, and now we're going to look at phosphorus. So phosphorus is actually a also cubic. I mean, it's amazing how much these electrolytes resemble the Holy of Holies temple. This is really remarkable. These are the spectral lines of phosphorus. Look at the green. Look how beautiful the green light is, and the blue. In fact, phosphorus gets its name as in Greek meaning light, luminosity. And so to not have phosphorus in your diet would reduce significant luminosity in the mind. Look how deep and wide the bands are in the gold and yellow here. Look at this. Look at it, incredible what you're seeing in the bands of the gold and yellow and phosphorus, right? So each one of these bands are shifted compared to the other electrolyte that that we looked at. And the phosphorus is in the grains. So yes, you can get some phosphorus by eating chicken. It's in sunflower seeds and pumpkin seeds, but it's in the grains. It's in the carbohydrates. So the luminosity, meaning, in fact, phosphorus is a flammable chemical. It is, in fact, you can't find phosphorus in your supplements on the shelf. It's a very volatile chemical, actually, but it is in your grains, and you can get it in chicken and you can get it in seafood, but you're not going to get enough of it there. It's really in the grains. And I've really learned this the hard way, believe me, in finding out the importance of getting all of these in your system. So when you listen to a diet that says cut out the carbs because they're causing the fat, then you're going to cut out the phosphorus. And your brain's luminous quality is going to starve. In fact, there's a lot of light here. When you look at all the deep reds and a lot of the deep blues, the turquoise is not as bright as our last electrolyte. So we've done sodium, potassium, magnesium, phosphorus, and we've done, let's look at lithium. Lithium is going to surprise you. Lithium is in pistachio nuts and lemons. Look at this. We've got one major line in green and a little bit of orangey yellow and a little bit of red. This is all lithium, which is the most powerful electrolyte. It's so powerful, but this is pure green. I mean, this is your lithium. Heart chakra. So if we place our electrolytes on a graph, they are rainbow colors, and they're feeding us rainbow. Again, lithium is the same. The cube with 6 pyramids, the temple, the inner temple. So now, actually, the primary electrolyte for humans is calcium. You look at calcium. I must have always spelled that wrong. Calcium. There we go. Of course, calcium is a metal. It's not plastic. And what's interesting about its geometry is the pyramids come off the face of the cube rather than meeting inside the cube. But it's still the pyramid and the cube, which is the foundation of the most profound spiritual temples on the earth. So the inner temple corresponds to the outer temple. And of course, calcium, again, really incredible bright greens. The lithium was over here more. And we see full spectrum, really deep bands in orange and lots of red. Now, again, you think of calcium as something that's good for your bones and your teeth, but it's actually a battery. It's electricity. And what happens is when we don't get enough calcium, and it's really hard to get it from the vegan milks. I did it for years, being a vegan and not drinking cows or, goat's milk or sheep's milk and cheese. My teeth started to hurt. My bones I got a lot of pain in my bones, a lot of back pains. And I found out that even though there's calcium in the vegan milks, it's not enough. You're not getting enough calcium. So what happens is when you don't get enough calcium, not only you're not getting enough electricity, but your body will temporarily steal it from your bones, as it will steal all electrolytes from your bones. And then you won't get enough. At a certain point, it can't steal any more from the bones, and then the brain will start to die. The brain will actually start to die. This is incredibly important for breastfeeding moms out there to get all of your electrolytes and replenish them fully, because you're losing tons of them in feeding your child. So doctors don't tell you this because they only get about 20 hours of nutrition, and when they're getting their medical degree, they have no idea how serious it is to not cross eat. So when you understand this, that your electrolytes are delivering electricity, but they're also delivering spectral lines of color, light, energy, when they're pulsed with frequencies. And in nature, we tend to get a lot of frequency activity from the sun and the earth, but most humans today, modern humans, are not working outside. They're working indoors. And believe me, they're not getting enough frequency activation. And hence, that is the purpose of my systems, my coil beds, my wands, staffs, and coil systems are to using very finely tuned frequencies through piezoelectricity. They cause the activation of the electrolytes in your system to emit. They won't emit light if they're not getting pulsed. And the other way electrolytes emit energy is through heat, right? So if you're, again, working indoors and you're not getting enough circulation and your body's not generating enough heat, your electrolytes will emit very poorly in the form of real transmission of electromagnetic energy in the different color spectrum into your nervous system and therefore your mind. So when a person is having what I describe as a psychedelic experience, and there's a lot of movement towards this. There's a whole film series on Netflix called How to Change Your Mind, and the chemistry of different psychedelic substances and how they've cured people of very serious mental and physical depressions. I mean, there's two types of depression. There's real physical depression, where there's not enough energy in the nervous system. And that's because a person is not getting enough electrolytes and they're not activating their electrolytes. And again, if you don't work outside in the hot sun, swinging a hammer with a shovel, and your chances of getting your electrolytes in your diet activated are very poor. And because your buildings are blocking the light, they're blocking the frequencies with the materials, and then you get very tired and you don't have energy. I have tons of energy. At 61 years old, I was out, chopping down trees and cutting up firewood and loading my truck up and getting my firewood for my family for the winter. So the purpose of taking electrolytes is to understand that you're good if you cut anything out in your diet. Like, this happens to a lot of people. It happens to a lot of men, where they go and have the same meal every day at a bar. They're going to have a sandwich and drink a bunch of beer, and go home and go to work the next day. So if you're not getting your veggies and you're not getting your fruit and you're not having fruit smoothies, your potassium is going to be really low. If you're not getting your grains, your phosphorus is going to be low. So there's a reason, I remember learning this, and it was elementary school when my teacher in California is showing me all the food groups, and you got to eat from this group and that group and this group, your grains, your dairy, your proteins, your fruit, your nuts, your seeds. Your nuts and seeds are very important electrolytes. Again, you can see them in meat and fish, but there's not enough there in one meal of chicken or fish to give you enough of your phosphorus that you're going to need for a whole day. It's just not enough there. And so what's going to happen is you're going to start stealing it from your bones. And then eventually, when your bones can't deliver anymore, you're in trouble. And the trouble we see today, we see massive increase in suicide. We see massive increase in depression. We see a massive increase in people on antidepressants. And we also see the huge increase in mental illness. And these things happen. There are very good studies that prove the connection even between schizophrenia and low sodium and low potassium and low calcium. In fact, low calcium can cause hallucinations. It can cause your hair to fall out and be very dry, very unhealthy dry hair is low calcium. So once you have an understanding of getting all your electrolytes in your diet, and if you need to supplement some, and you have to be careful with supplementation, because one, you're not going to get phosphorus, because you're not going to see when you buy an electrolyte drink. I mean, there's this incredible story I read recently of these hikers in California who all had grand mal seizures, and they were taken to the ER. They're hiking in the summer and they're drinking tons of water. They don't know what they did wrong. It turns out by drinking tons of water, without putting some salt in their water, their sodium went to 131. And 131 is critical. Some of them had permanent nerve damage, others had grand mal seizures, and they drank tons of water because the over drinking of water caused them to flush out their electrolytes, which is what really kills people in heat waves. You're going to see more heat waves, is over drinking of water and flushing out electrolytes. So it's more important to, why do we give a horse a salt lick? Because he's sitting out in the heat and he needs to have salt or his brain is going to die. So the importance of good electrolytes is enormous, but the second importance is to stimulate the electrolytes with frequencies. And so what I say to people who don't work outside, who are not getting their frequency activation from nature, is to, and this is classic in the Scandinavian countries where people don't get enough ultraviolet light to photosynthesize vitamin D, for example. But that's only a tiny fraction of what's really going on and what's causing the depression that you get in these countries from a lack of light is frequency. So again, I mean, I can't stress the importance of the benefits of my systems for people who are also living in these northern places where there's just not enough light, is to lay on one of my bed systems and pulse your body with frequency programs every single day, and to make sure you're getting electrolytes, and you will feel a million times better. And for anybody, who tries to tell you that this is all hogwash, they don't know how this human system really functions, how it really works. Because again, doctors are not nutritionists. Ask any nutritionist the importance of your electrolytes. And if you take Gatorade, look at Gatorade and look at the ingredients. So I can do that right now. I can go, it's kind of hilarious. Gatorade ingredients. Yeah. Water, sugar, citric acid, salt, which is sodium, potassium, gum arabic, glycerol. Okay, so and color. So they've got sodium, which is salt, and they've got some type of potassium phosphate. So that's it. That's all they got. So they basically only have two. Now, why is there sugar? Because, and this is going to show you how to make make an electrolyte drink. Is the sugar is the train, the passengers are the electrolytes. So if you get a liquid form of potassium, pinch of salt, sodium, magnesium, calcium, you're not going to be able to get phosphorus. You've got to put some maple syrup or honey in there or some sugar and shake it all up, and you've got yourself a good electrolyte drink. Now that's only for people who are not eating from these 5 food groups, right? So if you're, I switched back to real dairy a few years ago, and I just feel so much better getting real calcium, and the vegan idea was really hurting me badly. So the understanding also that I got into was no carbs. I was doing almost no grains for quite a few years, and no good because I'm not getting my phosphorus. No, so when you want to take this, I mean, there are people who just want to feel good, and they want to have good health, and they want to have strength in their muscles, right? Like I can still lift a 200-pound log and rock at my age, and because that's electricity coming into the muscles in the brain, right? Actually, my muscles are stronger than my bones right now because I can lift so much that I can actually hurt my back. I can lift 250 pounds, even 300 pounds probably, but my bones at this age are not going to be able to handle that. But that means there's electricity, right? Because it takes electricity to cause a muscle to work. And I know because I was lifting trees and throwing them in the back of the truck today, and I got a few sore muscles there. Probably feel it a little more tomorrow. But it's the electrical part that is the most important. You can't just eat stuff and then do a desk job or go for a walk once a day, and you're not going to get enough of the piezoelectric effect on the crystals that you're ingesting that are emitting the colors into your and activating your rainbow radiance and your consciousness. And that's when you start getting into finely tuned frequency work with your health goals, you're going to start feeling things that, like, I can literally feel colors. I can feel the quality of different colors. Of course, we all have favorite colors, but there are qualities in the colors that are just have an energy and a tonal kind of vibrational presence about them. I can really feel them. And you're going to start to see that I think humans lost a lot. Like we went from most of us working outside to almost all of us working inside and sitting in front of a computer all day with walls around you. We're not getting that photonic frequency activation of our electrolytes feeding into our electrical stimulated vibrant life force energy field. So that means we need something like what I'm talking about. So, if you don't know about my systems, you can go to davidsereda.co. And I'm not saying this is the only way to do this, because there are other ways to get frequencies for people that don't have the money. You can even learn my toning vocal frequency meditation courses, teach people how to use your actual voice. Like if you put your hand on your chest and you just make an A sound, you can feel little vibrations, right, in your bones. Those vibrations are doing the work that I'm talking about. They're putting pressure pulses on the crystals that are in your bones, because all those electrolytes I just mentioned are stored in the bones. And then in our diet, we're replenishing them, but we're giving ourselves an electrical charge battery, the ingredients for an electrical charge to run our nervous system and our brain. So if you go get yourself some Gatorade, you're only going to get 2 of them, and the sugars don't look very good in there to me. So you can make your own, right? You can get some potassium powder or liquid form and some salt and some sugar, and you've got the same thing as Gatorade, except theirs is orange, so they add a fake color to it. You can make your own. You need the sugar to carry it to the brain. So don't think, again, I've had so many people tell me, oh, sugar's bad for you. Not good sugar. Pure cane sugar, molasses is an incredible source of calcium and iron, which women absolutely need during their cycle. Molasses. I mean, I used to have the best days skiing when I had molasses on my pancakes. I had so much energy all day. And it wasn't just the molasses, it's the molasses is acting as a carrier. So the sugar is carrying it. You don't, if you don't get any form of sugar to carry, you're going to have, there's a reason God, the creator, made sugar cane. It's not sitting there for no reason. I mean, when I went to India, everybody is eating their sugar and their chai and milk in their tea. So they're getting all their calcium electrolytes. They have the sugar as the carrier and whatever's in the tea. So when you look at your electrolyte drinks, look at what's in them. And I've looked at all of them. None of them have the phosphorus. You know, it's funny, there was a drink called milk of magnesia for the elderly, and milk of magnesia had phosphorus of some type of phosphate in it, but it was slightly above the accepted level because it's a bit of a volatile chemical, and you can't get milk of magnesia anymore. And notice, like, let's do a study and say, when they got rid of milk of magnesia, did we see an increase in Alzheimer's and cognitive illnesses? You can do the study. I've done it. I'm not going to tell the answer, but I can tell you, if you have an elderly person that you're watching over or caring for, make sure they're getting their electrolytes. And if they're drinking an electrolyte drink, make sure you know what's in there, because a lot of them are junk. Now, some of them will have the potassium, the magnesium, and the salt. So that's 3 with a sugar for a carrier, which could be honey. Somebody's asking about honey. And the the metals that are called minerals are conductors for the electricity that's stored and delivered by the electrolytes. So you have your electrolytes, and then you have your minerals, your copper, your zinc, your iron, all of it. We all even have a little bit of uranium in us, believe it or not. But pure sugar, I'm not against it at all. In fact, maple syrup has manganese. Now, wait a second. I don't even think we checked manganese. Manganese is probably silvery metal. It's a mineral, usually found in combination with iron. And the spectral lines for manganese are very weak, actually. They're pretty tiny. I don't know if you can see those anymore on my, because I've stopped the share screen. But so you have your trace minerals, and then you have your electrolytes. So they're 2 separate things. A lot of people get these mixed up, right? So, because I've had so many people say, oh yeah, I take my trace minerals. No, not the same thing. Not the same thing at all. And you know, this is a very personal issue for me, because I lost the person closest to me breastfeeding my children for 6 years, and the doctors tested her electrolytes, and they were critically low, and they didn't do a single thing about it. So it took me forever to find out, you know, after she died. And that's why I'm really on to this for my kids and myself in the future. So again, all those electrolytes are all in the 5 food groups. For people who get in this pattern of eating a kind of very isolated diet because they're in a hurry and they're going to work and they're having that sandwich every day. So if you're going to have a sandwich, have a glass of milk instead of a beer. That might be a good idea, guys. If you're working out in the forest like I used to do, make sure you're getting that calcium electrolyte. And it, believe me, when the calcium goes in the body, the hair falls out, and then the person starts to hallucinate. It's very, very bad. And once the brain dies, the damage is irreparable and permanent. In this study I did on these hikers in California, many of them got permanent nerve damage. So it looks like the person has another condition, but the real underlying cause, and again, because doctors are not nutritionists, they only do 20 hours of nutrition in their medical degree. They don't know anything about the nervous system and electrolytes. So I'm all over this. Now, again, if you have all these electrolytes in your diet and you're not getting a form of frequency to activate them via piezoelectricity, they're going to emit a little bit because you have a certain amount of heat in your body. But for people that are doing physical work outside, you're not only getting the frequencies from the sun, but your body heats up and your heart rate goes up, and the heart is pumping. It's sending pulses into those electrolytes, and they feed back all those light spectra into the body. But believe me, they're probably the greater portion of the population is not outside, working in the forest and building houses and buildings and things like that, and farming. It's a very small percentage of our population is actually doing that. So thank you, everybody, for being here. I wanted to share that with you. Go to my website, to davidsereda.co. Check out my beds and the wands and the coils and the staffs and the toning. Again, even if you can activate your voice, not just by talking a lot, chattering a lot over tea, but doing some form of toning and singing that is harmonic is another way to activate the crystals, these beautiful little temples, these little cubes under the microscope are what we're made out of. And they're emitting, the inner temple is in harmony with the outer temple. So thanks everybody for being here, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone. If you have any questions about any of his products, you can call me 778-386-1786. If you have any comments to make, feel free to reach out. Bye, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. You're welcome.